I'm Mike Dobrota, and this is TerraQuip Talk. After years of providing drilling equipment solutions, I know that a project success hinges on reliable, high-quality rigs that meet your needs. So if you're ready to make smarter equipment decisions and build stronger foundations, let's get started. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to TerraQuip Talk. This is the podcast where we share ideas, experiences, case studies, and where we talk from time to time with people from different walks of our industry, with professionals that have a good story to share. So one of the previous episodes we had Robbie from Shorinko. He's a good friend of mine, a professional as well. He's been in the industry for a long time. If you haven't seen that episode, please go and check it out. It's pretty interesting. It was a very good discussion. Now, I can't believe it's already February. It feels like this year is even faster than last year. And one of my friends was actually asking me the other day, what do I believe this year, that 2026 is going to be like? And I said, look, I'm very optimistic. I think 2026 is going to be a great year. And from an economic standpoint of view, I think things kind of settled last year. And now this year is time that we're going to reap the rewards. But so far, I don't know, man. It just keeps looking like the international tensions are increasing. And it's like every single day there's a new conflict in a place where you never even heard about, right? But anyway, all we can do is just focus on what we do and do the best that we can in our game and in our position and just hope for the best, right? Now, speaking of international stuff, this episode we're going to talk about one of our suppliers that's coming directly from Germany, and that is G&H. So G&H stands for Gampel and Hatlapa, which is now just Hatlapa. This is the name of the founder, who is a gentleman that has been in the industry for quite a long time. In fact, before he started to and founded this company, G&H, he was actually for one of the biggest names in our industry. His name is Johan Hatlapa, and I got to tell you, he's an absolute legend. He's a professional with a plethora of skills and capabilities from different fields, which allowed him to build one of the most versatile computers for the drilling and the piling rigs. He's been working in different technologies in hydraulics, electrics, electronics, code developing as well. He's a developer too. And I started working with Johan back in 2019. And at that time, I had absolutely no ideas what he does and what these computers do and how they work. But all I knew is that I needed a system for my IMT machines, because whatever was on the market at that time in Australia and whatever I knew about, I wasn't really happy with them. I found them a little bit too complicated. And not to say anything negative about my competitors when it comes to the computer systems, but the G&H is very versatile with a very user-friendly interface. And sure enough, at that time, in 2019, when I was at Bauma, I was introduced to Johan through different other connections from our industry. And after a very short discussion, we pretty much started representing G&H in Australia with TerraQuip in Australia and New Zealand. Johan at that time had only one other computer in Australia, and that was on a very large piling rig. I think it was on a Waltman CFA rig. And like all of our other suppliers, what I liked about Johan was the fact that he gave us his full support. And when I say full support, I mean from all the perspectives, including the fact that he took the time to come from Germany to Australia and help us install the very first G&H comprehensive system on an IMT 8215. But not only that, he also took the time to train me and my dad, John, on the installation of these computers back in those days. And funny story here, I wanna mention, we're doing the first installation, like as I was saying, with Johan. And I have to say, there's not many people in the world that, or in my experience, that intimidated me. But when I saw that he's got such a broad understanding and capability in so many fields, you know, from computers, web developing, code developer, hydraulics, mechanics, and engineering in general, I started being intimidated by this guy. I was like, wow. It's like not many people intimidate me, but with your skills, I was like, you're an incredibly smart person, man. That's all the respect to you. So yeah, we installed the first system on IMT 8215, as I said, and then we installed on the A140, then we installed it on A70, and a lot of other brands, which are not my brands, right? We installed it even on a very old rig. It was excavator based with a drilling mass attachment. And it was quite funny because the actual system was like $40,000-$50,000, but the value of the rig was like $75,000. So why do I say it's one of the most versatile computers? Where simply because you can install it on any sort of machine like this one, which was a very old machine, very small in value, very simple sort of build, but you can also install it on the most complicated, Solmec or Casagrande or Bauer, Liebherr. So the way it works is that it's got the capability to either reuse the existing sensors that are on the machine, so recycle the sensors, or install brand new sensor, and more than that, the capability to install only the devices and the sensors that you want the values for, right? In my opinion, this is a huge advantage, especially because you can start with measuring just the basic parameters and sensors. And later on, you have the possibility to, let's say, keep on adding other sensors or functions on that computer that you want for your machine, or depending on what the project requires, right? So some of the values that the G&H computers can give you, there's many of them, right? But just to name a few, it gives you the depth, the inclination of the mast, and then you've got rotation RPM. Then you've got the crowd force required to drill through certain types of ground. Then you've got the hydraulic pressure required, for example, on the extraction. Then you can do basically all of this data, right? The crowd pressure, the RPM, the hydraulic pressure required by the rotary. With all of these three factors, you can do an approximation with the degree of difficulty that you go through the ground with the machine, right? It can do torque approximation as well, but you got to be very careful with this because once you have different gears, obviously the pressure equivalent to the torque is different. So it can give you some approximations, right, which you can call the drill X factor, for example, right? But in any case, it's a very versatile system that allows you, as I said, to measure different functions. So let's say, for example, you want a simple computer that just measures depth and inclination. You buy the computer, you buy the display, we'll install it for you, we'll install the sensors unless the sensors are already there and we can reuse them. And then later on, let's say, Mike, I actually want the RPM as well. No problem. We'll install for you a proximity sensor on the rotary and we'll hook it up to your computer. Or let's just say, I want the crowd pressure from the crowd winch. I want to know how much it is. Okay, no problem. We'll install a pressure switch that converts the hydraulic pressure into an electrical or digital signal the computer interprets depending on how much you need to go through your ground. Or let's just say I want the device that allows me to send an email directly from the job site at the end of the day with all the piles and the parameters that have been drilled that day. Or let's just say I want a computer that offers me the ability to see what my operator is drilling in live feed, right? So we have that remote access possibility as well. It's an option, right? If you pay for it, you can add it on. And you can add it at any stage. You don't have to make a huge investment from the beginning. Let's just say you have some simple projects that only require you the concrete volumes, the depth, and the inclination. And later on, you want to add certain other functions such as the modem to send basically all the data to your office, to your client, or to your project managers. And it also helps us as well if you've got remote access to set up the machine, because sometimes, the operator, we do the commissioning and the startup, but maybe sometimes the operators then they change and they have no idea about it. We've been able to spend with them half an hour on the phone, and with us connecting remote access to exactly what they're doing, we can guide them and be like, okay, now you're doing the drilling. These are all your parameters. This is what you're surveying right now. This is the information that's getting stored. Now you're ready. You reach your depth. You're ready to extract. You're pumping concrete. This is the way you adjust your computer. Now, another huge advantage about this computer is what we've done recently in the last few years. we have installed the radio transmitter between the concrete pump and the drilling rig, especially on the CFA technology. And what that does is it allows us to tell the computer what the pump does without the need of a concrete pressure transducer. So let me explain how that works. There's a transmitter on the pump that measures with a proximity sensor the S-tube movements. Now, each S-tube movements basically represents one pulse of the cylinder. One pulse of one stroke of the cylinder, we know the volume of concrete in that pump per stroke. Let's say it's anywhere between 35 liters and 75 liters, depending on how big your pump is, right? But on a normal pump, let's say 80 cubic meter per hour, it's about 40 liters per stroke. So then that radio transmitter transmits the impulses, which is, by the way, extremely accurate every single time, to the drilling rig computer, to the G&H computer, that knows that with each pulse, you've got 40 liters per pulse. So this way, depending on how fast you extract, because you know the depth, it builds with the calculation, with the instant calculation of the pile volume, it builds your pile profile extremely accurate, regardless of the concrete viscosity and density. Because a lot of the issues that we had in the past, yes, you can use the concrete pressure transducer, and we still use that as a backup sort of machine. Or if you have a pump that doesn't have the radio system and you still need to use it, you can still use the traditional concrete pressure transducer in the side pipe of the rig. But what we noticed with that is a lot of the times, the concrete can be very different. It's so hard to get consistent mix. And sometimes the viscosity, the water content from the concrete, from the mix, can influence the reading of the impulses that are in the direct line of the concrete. So you constantly have to go back and adjust that computer in order to have accurate reading. Whereas with the sensor, nothing is in the way of concrete. So not only that, but I don't know if you know, but the concrete pressure transducers, they're quite expensive. The proximity sensor on the S-tube on the pump is literally a tenth of the price of that. And they're not in the way of concrete. They require less maintenance. They're not as moody, as I said. They don't overreact depending on the quality of the concrete of the mix. Yes, it's a little bit more investment at the beginning, because I think the radio system in total is about $9,000 that you can add on to your system in order to install the transmitter on the pump and the receiver on the rig. But on the long run, it's a lot less issues, less maintenance. You don't have to clean, because, for example, the concrete pressure transducer that's in the concrete pipe, you need to pull it out literally every single day and clean that membrane. Otherwise, it gets damaged. So there's a lot of advantages with the radio system. I'm going to show a video now where we're explaining on how we're actually doing a commissioning for one of our clients, where we install the radio system with a full G&H computer on one of our competitor rigs. I'm ready to start grouting, so I'm gonna press F1. Now I'm going to the grouting screen, which is the pile here, the pile profile. I'm gonna tell my operator which one is the horn here.
Oh, I don't even know, right?
Yeah. Ray, start pumping. Yalla. I can't hear the pump. Is he pumping? Not yet, right? No.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, you can see there strokes 2, 3. Okay, I'm about to start pulling, right? Oh, not too fast. Go slower. So you can see the pile profile being a little bit too much in the green. We want to be a little bit less. So a little bit faster, pull up. There you go. Now a little bit more in the graph. Oh, a little bit too fast there. That's all right.
So what times is it for?
It's good, but it shows you how much the concrete is expanding the wall. But that's perfect, man.
Yeah. The John looks does it, but this makes it very clear because it's red and green. So, but what I like about this is you don't need concrete in the system to
Oh, yeah. That's
so the thing is like Virgil, I can get them in here, put them in the seat, and now drill a hole.
Yeah.
So you can work out, so we can work out our speed before we land at Richmond. So he knows, because it's got meters per.
I'm extracting now with 3.3 centimeters per minute.
Yeah.
So with this system and the cooperation between us at TerraQuip in Sydney and G&H from Germany, we basically saw a family-oriented and family-owned German company that shared our values and aligned with our values of quality, reliability, and pragmatism. More than everything, pragmatism and practicality. And the cooperation between TerraQuip and Hatlapa has been, I have to say, I'm very proud of it. It's been seamless. We bring the local knowledge and they bring that made in Germany, accurate, reliable, good quality tech. So when you buy a Hatlapa system through us, you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting the made in Germany stamp of quality as well and hardware, as well as the TerraQuip support and knowledge of the local ground and the local industry. We stock parts here and we know how to install them, of course. If you have any questions about the calibration, the computer training, or the interpreting the results, we can help with this. As I was saying earlier, majority of the computers that we installed, they had the function for remote viewing, which meant that the operators can just call us and be like, hey, can you help me set up? I think my depth is a little bit off, or I need to put in a new SIM card. Can you help me with this? We've been able to log onto their computers remotely. We can't control it, right? But we can see what's happening with their permission. I said, okay, give me permission. I'll log into your computer and then I can help you. That's very good support. And this is the kind of support that Johan was able to give us from Germany as well. We communicate on WhatsApp together with our technicians. He gives us clear instructions, step-by-step instructions with what we need to do depending on the rig and depending on the technology that we're installing. And then he's helping us a lot of times set up if we can't just set it up by ourselves, and he's giving us full support. I have to say I have the utmost respect for Johan. He's not only an incredibly smart guy, but also he's been very, very prompt to give us his support, his very professional support, almost regardless of the time. So anytime between 6 a.m. in Germany and 11 o'clock at night, we worked with him through all the hours. And that's very impressive, right? Especially considering that he sells his computers all over the world to any kind of machine, any class of drilling rig, and how busy he is. We're very appreciative for that. Hey, before we continue with our episode, I just want to say, if you're someone that shares our passion for drilling, you have experience and you want to tell your story right here at TerraQuip Talk, we would be more than happy to have you, even if you're someone from a company that doesn't use our equipment. Now back to the episode. Now, let's get a bit more technical. What exactly are we talking about when we're saying this G&H systems? Well, he's got different systems for different technologies, but the most popular one that we use in Australia and the most popular that we install, the most common, is the DAVIS system. It's spelled DAVIS system. Now, this is the flagship in terms of data acquisition, and it usually comes in 10-inch and 7-inch. We noticed that the 7-inch is big enough, so we just use this. And I have to say, they're not just iPads glued to a dashboard. They are rugged, high-resolution industrial monitors designed to survive a construction site and usually the very harsh conditions on the job site. And I'll give you a little story here. I'll tell you how rugged they are and how resilient they are. Believe it or not, we had a situation where a machine with a computer, with a G&H computer, was going through the Australian customs and they wanted to clean it. And at the customs, what they did, they had no idea, the people there at the customs. So they use a high-pressure washer cleaner inside the cabin. Yes. Let me rephrase that. They used the high-pressure cleaner inside the cabin, and they went through the entirety of the inside of the cabin, including the computer. Now, At the first glance, I was like, okay, see you later. When the client told me, I was like, that's it. I've just sold another Gen computer system because there's no way it would have survived that. But you know what? It did. 2 weeks later, I'm waiting for the client to come in and purchase the computer that I gave him the offer for, but he wasn't coming. I called him. I said, hey, what's going on? Are you still going to buy this computer? And he said, no, actually, I have no need for it. I was like, what do you mean? You're not going to use the computer anymore? He said, no, I will, but it just came back to life. We only replaced a few fuses and a couple of relays, and everything is fine. And I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. Now, that's what I mean quality. That's what I mean resilience and how sturdy these computers are built. Let's talk a little bit about the hardware system here. So the system is built to be modular. This is a huge feature, and I'll touch a little bit more on this. You've got the display system. You've got the control board with the different cards there, measuring different parts of the rig. And in that control board, you have the connections from every single sensor that goes from the rotary, from the mast, from the main winch, from the auxiliary winch. It goes and it plugs in into where is a pressure transducer or proximity sensor or a depth decoder. All communication goes into that processing unit, into the control board. And then from the control board, it goes to the display system. In terms of the capabilities and the methods here, that it's not designed to be like a one-trick pony sort of thing. And the software is designed to give you a massive range of special foundation methods. Like I was saying, CFA, that's the most popular that we use it for. But it can also survey the parameters and record them in Kelly-bar drilling. Now, from what I know, on other computers, you don't really have the ability to record and save the Kelly-bar drilling parameters, such as the drilling production, the depth, the inclination, the, let's say, the drilling X factor, which is how hard the ground is. It doesn't give you that in Kelly-bar, just in CFA. But with GNH, you can use it in soil mixing, in jet grouting as well, displacement piling, vibro compaction as well for stone columns, sheet piling, slurry walls, anchoring and injections, you name it, right? The VIS system can handle it all. And here's the kicker. You can switch between these methods extremely easy. When you start the rig, it gives you there the option, hey, which technology are you drilling in? Okay, I'm drilling in, let's say, CFA. Drilling CFA that day. Then let's say you convert a machine, start a machine, and now you're working for argument's sake, let's say in soil mixing. You just select the method there, soil mixing, and it gives you the parameters for that particular technology. Number 3, you have the software that's used in the actual rig. Then you have the software to interpret the results. It's called GUH-MA. Probably comes from something in German. I don't know what it comes from. But it gives you the ability to interpret and to play with the results and build different graphics and pile profiles depending on the parameters that you drilled. And then you also have, of course, the remote viewing software, which you can buy separately in order to see in real life what's happening on the job site. As a dealer, I have the chance to see this. And if you're a contractor and listen to this and you're thinking, why should I retrofit my rig with a GNH computer? Well, they're simple. They're very intuitive. Normally, there's a stereotypic thing, about high tech and how difficult it is to use. But their motto is high tech used inside a computer, but the interface is clean, user-friendly, and it's not just designed for IT guys. It's built to be understood in a simple way by any operator out there. Now, in terms of the actual interpretation of the results, I usually go through with my clients through one setup. I tell them, okay, give me the files from the rig, which they're called GUH files from the computer. And then we load that into a software. You just literally drag and drop. You tick there the boxes that you wanted to interpret and you want to show on your graphs and build whichever graphs you want. Let's say pressure against time, depth against, let's say concrete volumes, you name it. You've got the ability to choose different parameters there to show. And then you just convert them into a PDF files. You can share with your clients. You can share with your office, or you can just use for statistic purpose to say, okay, in a certain area, because it's got the GPS as well, on this address, we've drilled let's say 10 piles a day in Kelibar at 600 millimeter diameter, whereas in west of Sydney, for example, we drill 20 piles a day because the ground is much softer. So loading all of that data into an Excel spreadsheet could give you a massive advantage when you're, let's say, pricing other jobs, when you're doing other estimations out there with your engineers in the office. Now, advantage number 2 is the open architecture, right, which is huge for maintenance. And in my opinion, this is a very good selling point because most of the computers, they use what's called a black boxes. What that means is that if a cable snaps, the system shuts down, that's it. You have to buy that specific $500 or $1,000 cable. But with Hatlapa is different. The system is designed that you can replace components with proximity sensors out there, that you find in a common, let's say, specialist electronics store, right? And then this way you'll be back up and running without even using us. Although we have the local supporter, we have the technicians ready to help you. But that flexibility is unheard of in our industry, and it saves a massive amount of downtime. That's what I really liked about them. Advantage number 3 is the precision and the reporting. And the reporting can be automated, as I said. At the end of the day, you get single pile reports or combined pile in a single PDF, daily summaries, and weekly production reports at just a mouse click away, right? And as I said earlier, in terms of accuracy, since we work with radio transmitter signal between the pump and the rig, it's a lot more accurate and a lot easier to basically calibrate the sensor. Advantage number 4 here, when it comes to the machine control, one of the things when I started working with G&H is I said, man, I want a computer system that I can just survey what the machine does but doesn't control the machine. I don't want that. I want the IMT machines to be reliable, simple. And I know there's different schools of thought here. You've got, I guess, the younger generations. They love all the automation. They love all the bells and whistles. And that's perfectly fine, right? But with me, I wanted a system that doesn't control and doesn't interfere with the controls of the rig. Advantage number 5 here, tailor-made solutions, including prices. Let's just say you want a simple computer that does depth and inclination only, with the possibility later on to add other functions. You can do it. It's going to cost you 20 grand or 25 grand, including installation, delivery, and everything, and startup. But if you want, let's say, a full-blown computer with all the bells and whistles, maybe it's going to be $50,000, $60,000, depending on what you need, right? So having that tailor-made solution, and more than that, we had situations where, for example, the layout of the keyboard, at the beginning, we didn't really like that in Australia. So we went back to Johan and said, Johan, is there something that you can do here? Because we don't want this type of keyboard. We want to use the QWERTY keyboard in the same shape that's an actual, that we have actual keyboards, on our screens with our normal computers. And sure enough, a few days later, he came back with an update, was able to update remotely. That's another advantage, that because he has access remotely, if you give him access, he can do this updates from his office in Germany rather than traveling all the way to Australia and spending all that money. That was one of the keyboard. Then in CFA, on the extraction, as soon as you go to the grouting screen and you start extracting in CFA, the inclination display was disappearing because you only use that supposedly when you're setting up for the pile and during the drilling mode. But then we said, no, we want to see the inclination. We want to see read the inclination when you're extracting as well. So sure enough, a few days later, he goes on reprogramming. That's what I mean. This guy intimidated me with how proficient he was and how he had different ability for skills. We said we want to have the TerraQuip logo as soon as every computer starts to see that it's supported and sold in Australia by TerraQuip, advertising. He was able to take our logo in a matter of like 15 minutes and add it to his software and do an update for all the other ones. That was incredibly good, right? That's why another advantage is the support. As I was saying earlier, me and Johan, we talk on WhatsApp as well as our technicians. So most of the time, unless it's like in the middle of the night for him, he gives us advice. And sometimes even if it's outside his hours, because he travels all over the world, he's got different time zones. So sometimes he's on the same time zone as us one day earlier. Another advantage number 7 is on some rigs, you literally have complete plug and play solutions, right? You can reuse all the sensors that are CAN bus. You just connect the computer, you power it. That's it. It gives you all the, however, not on all of them, right? On other machines, you have to use your own sensors. And another thing that's, to give you an example here, on the IMT, for example, we can reuse the depth gauge, we can reuse the inclination and the RPM as well. So because of this, the system becomes cheaper because it actually adapts to what you need on that particular rig. So that's it, guys. As we wrap this up, I want to bring it back to what it means for your business. We know that in Australia, should be right doesn't just cut it, right? So if you're like drilling 30 meters down let's say for a skyscraper foundation, you need the proof, you need the data, you need accurate data, and you need the gear that doesn't quit. And that's why Hatlapa provides this sort of data reliability, and TerraQuip provides a support network for it. So if you have an old rig, if you have a brand new rig, it doesn't matter the brand, it can be Casa Grande, a Solmec, a Mate, an IMT, it can be anything out there, right? There's not many rigs that we can't, if any, that we can't install this computer, right? Let's say your original computer is dead or you want something a little bit different, come and talk to us. We'll show you, we'll do a demo. You can see in one of the videos here that we shared here how we made a difference for one of our clients and for their drilling rig to make things easier for their operators. We can retrofit a Hatlapa Davis system onto almost any rig. As I said, you can modernize your 15-year-old machine to give it the monitoring capabilities of a 2026 model. If you want to find out more information about what G&H does, this is the website here, obviously the English version for it as well. You can see all the specs, what they do, their capability. And if you have any questions, come and see us. Let's talk. Let us give you a demo. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I think we're getting close to episode number 30. Thank you for tuning in. Just remember, if it's not turning, you're not earning. I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to TerraQuip Talk. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to support us is by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube so you never miss an episode. You can also find out more from me on all social media platforms. The links are below. Until then, remember, if it's not turning, you're not earning.